Hello, everyone. Welcome to my Mars Mantra podcast. In this podcast series today, I'm going to introduce you to Shamira Haider, who is a very dear friend as well as a senior architect friend from Bangladesh. Shamira Haider has been working in various sectors. She worked as an architect, and then she worked for the private sector, and now she's a humanitarian worker. So, how are you, Shamira Pa?
Fine, thank you. Very good to be here, Rumana.
Yes, and I think that we always have really insightful conversations, so it will be good for our audience to listen to our insightful chat and also know about your Mars mantra. As audience, you already might have spotted that Mars stands for motivations, actions, reflections, and sustainability. So I will ask Shamira to share her motivation, how she ended up working in so many different sectors, her journey through these many years, and also with what she liked and what she has learned, and share those things with us, as well as her Mars mantra to keep going. How does she sustain herself to work in humanitarian sector? Because it's quite a tough sector to work in. I mean, all sectors are tough, but she worked in the business sector as well. So yes, Shamira Appa, let's start. So where do you want to start? Do you want to introduce yourself properly? Because I did it really short.
No, you did well. So yeah, I started off as an architect. From 6 years old. I just knew that I'm going to study architecture, be an architect. And the funny thing was, once I graduated, I had a second thought that should I be an architect or not? I still don't know why, but because I still have a lot of passion for designing and in the field. Uh, yeah, so then while my friends were doing masters, I did masters in business administration. It was a shock to my parents. Uh, yeah, so once I graduated or once I had my masters, went back to Bangladesh and
You did
practiced.
your master's in the UK.
Masters in UK in business administration, went back to Bangladesh, and yeah, joined an architectural firm for 2 or 3 months. Then I was not very motivated. And the thing about me is, if I lose interest, I lose interest.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then. Interestingly, British Petroleum headhunted me when I was working in that architectural firm. I was renovating BP office who just opened their office in Bangladesh, their operation center. I designed there, and then we were introduced, and they offered me a job. I took it. I really like the private sectors, particularly oil and gas sector. I had a lot of training in upstream and downstream marketing. And yeah, it was I was there for about 4 and 5 years, and it was really rewarding job. It was, I mean, uh, at the end of 4 and 5 years, I started to have a feeling that it is, though the salary and everything was excellent, the amount of power I had was good, but I was not having a lot of satisfaction in a sense that what I'm contributing to the society.
Hmm.
What is the meaning of all this except for personal gain? But that time I had a baby, I had my expenses, and I had to
Exactly.
continue. Um, so 2001 December, I resigned and got married. So this is my second marriage, and came to England, started a new life, and then on, I I had a career break, but every day I was thinking what I should do now. I'm definitely not going back to oil and gas industry, though there was an offer from BP to work um, in Scotland. Uh, was not very interested because I wanted to be with the family for a while, and then join. And I had a business, a fair trade business. I started a fair trade business in London, uh, promoting promoting artisans of Peru, India, and Bangladesh and their products. During that time, fair trade was not that popular, and my objective was to display their products, work with the artisans, have uh, have designs which are more palatable for the European consumers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then the crash, economic crash happened, the credit crunch of 2008, which affected the business a lot, and our organic fair trade business they were all affected. My sector was heavily affected as well. People very quickly move away from organic and expensive fair trade product to cheaper mass
Mm-hmm.
produced product for a while.
Mm-hmm.
That is understandable. But just doing a break-even business at that sector, it was not the prospect of continuing that business was tough.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it was very sad because the 4 years I built up this business, then I had to give up. And interestingly, I I don't know when did I apply a job for UNDP in 2008, 2007 actually, December, and then um, I did very well in the interview and they offered me a job, and that was in Bangladesh. Uh, they basically recruited me because of my experience in architecture and business.
Mm-hmm.
So the job was part of fundraising, liaising with international donor, and managing the shelter program in Bangladesh right after the Sidr and flood, cyclone Sidr and
Cyclone
flood in
Cedar.
Bangladesh. Yeah, cyclone Sidr and flood. There was a huge flood in Bangladesh right after the Sidr in many parts of Bangladesh. Since then, I didn't actually look back. It was so rewarding, and I just knew that this is what I wanted to do always, particularly when I was going to the field. So there, I used my skill of architecture and business management quite a lot. I found out that particularly in shelter sector, there was a lack of representation from the professionals.
Yes.
Um,
And I think
and
that's when we met.
yeah, that's when we met. Yeah, I think that was in London, wasn't it?
Yes, at the station.
At the station, yeah, Waterloo Station, probably, if I remember
Yes.
correctly. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So I think that time I told you that I didn't realize that there would be so much um, uh, there would be a gap in
Mm.
professional architects or engineers in shelter sector. So it was tough to convince my leadership team and everyone that why I need an engineer. And I remember the operation director asked me, so you're going to build a hut. Why would you need a civil engineer for that? Then I had
Mm.
to explain him the logistics is more important than just building the hut. How would you do the construction? How would you carry the building materials to those remote locations where there is no access, nothing at all? and that has to be planned. If you have to meet the deadline, you really need to have a operation plan and the logistical plans, and exactly what time, what material should be there in the field. So so I redesigned actually the shelters to be more cyclone resilient and flood resilient, and that was highly appreciated by FCTO, who were our funder, um, and increased their funding so we can build more core. So I termed it as core family homes. So those core family homes could be expanded by the beneficiaries according to their need. And we were training our beneficiaries how to build those houses as well. So it had a mezzanine floor where they can store their valuable products and keep their children safe. And there was a escape window at the mezzanine floor. If the flood water goes up, they can escape from there, and the roof could be their shelter.
Mm.
And I understand that when there is a flood, cyclone, people bring their animals in and they're valuable assets for them.
Yes.
So that has to be protected as well. So those core family shelters were were really addressing all those needs of the beneficiaries, and we designed at the site with the help of beneficiaries, particularly the women,
Hmm.
with their feedback. That's how the design came out. From it was a bottom up design. So it's not that any architect sitting in their studio, right, designing a prescriptive shelter for the beneficiaries. And obviously it was highly accepted by the beneficiaries. And so that was the first project of mine. We completed it after 3.5 years. And
And did you
since,
stay in Bangladesh for 3.5 years?
yeah, I stayed in Bangladesh 3.5 years.
And I remember your daughter was there at
Yeah,
school as
yeah, I
well.
took that time my daughter was 6 years old.
Mm.
She stayed with me there for 6 months, then came back to UK to be with her dad. Um, because I was traveling a lot. You- if you if you are in Bangladesh, you would know how the traffic jams are. So usually, I was coming home after 8 o'clock. It was not very good for a child to be alone such a long time.
Mm.
So she came back. So there were challenges. Personal level, there was a lot of challenges to stay in Bangladesh alone, leaving family in UK every 3 months, coming back and visiting them. Those were challenging, but I knew that this is where I want to work, and I had to continue this. Um, yes, the
Exactly.
passion was there, and that was driving me all the time. And from there, I went to work with Save the Children in Haiti, and since then for many countries. So, and currently I'm in South Sudan as multi-partner trust fund manager. So this is fundraising for for the for the affected population, the war affected population of South Sudan,
Mm.
particularly women and children.
Tell us more
Um,
about South Sudan. Describe how things are and how do you live there? You've been there for almost 1 year, right?
more than 1 year, yeah. So South Sudan. So everyone, when I speak, I mean the majority of people I know, when I say I work in South Sudan, they think that I'm in Sudan. They still don't know that South Sudan
Yes.
was
Independent
liberated.
country. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, it's an independent country. It gained its independence from Sudan quite a while ago. I think 11, 12 years ago. It's a very new country, and there were a lot of violence and there were a lot of civil wars in the past since 2016. situation, the war situation, the civil war situation slowly coming down, but there are lots of army factions are there. Um, Lots of civilians, they have arms, so conflict is rampant, particularly women, children, and elderly people are highly affected by this conflicts. So the sector I'm working in, peace and security sector, where very quickly realized that if we want to secure our lives, if we want to establish peace inside South Sudan,
Hmm.
it is extremely important that we keep women at the center of peace negotiations. They have a huge role in peace and security sector. They are the victims, and also they have the power to convince their communities, their children, their husband, their brothers, their son, to surrender guns and to look for other
Hmm.
opportunities in life to stabilize their lives through economic development and other. Um, so when I joined, my first objective was to how we prioritize women. The program was prioritizing women, but the data was not available, and the focus was not that much on women and girls. There was a bit of revision of the program, and it's particularly our donors of Scandinavian donors, EU. They're very pleased that we are actually focused more on women and youth and getting data on those sectors that are we, the data is the litmus of all
Litmus test.
programs, litmus
Hmm.
test of all program. So once we get the data, we can see how good or bad we are doing. It's a very challenging country, though. I live in Juba, the capital, within UN compound. But it's not that dangerous. I think London streets are more dangerous sometimes than South Sudan. The amount of gun crimes happens here. Uh, I mean, people. The interesting thing about war zones or post-war areas that yeah, there are a lot of violence, but life goes on. There are still peace pockets everywhere,
Mm.
and our objective is to increase those peace pockets to overshadow the violences and then gradually establishing the peace. So I worked in Ukraine as well. So within war, life was going on. The sushi bars were still open in Kiev, and uh, and people were doing their grocery, people having their wedding, birthday. They were bombing, but life goes on. It is dangerous, but you know, there is a mandate by all parties, warring parties, that the humanitarian worker would be protected.
Uh-huh.
So unfortunately, this year we have witnessed that that is not the case, and we hope that
What happened?
countries, in particularly in conflict in Middle East, where we see the huge number of casualties of humanitarian and development workers.
Yes.
UN workers are killed. Shouldn't be the case. If so, it shouldn't set the precedence that otherwise, if humanitarian workers are not protected, who would save the people? Who would save those children, the disabled, the most vulnerable people of those areas who cannot move from war
Yes.
to a
Hmm.
secure location? So they are the lifeline. Red Cross, Save the Children, UN staffs. They are there with those people and try their best to secure their lives.
Exactly.
And they don't work for money. They work with the passion, and they don't have any political affiliation. So they shouldn't be
Mm,
killed. They should be protected. Uh, so that is a huge concern, I think, in this sector now. That how we save uh, these people who are at the front line.
exactly.
And everywhere we are having this discussion with the donors, member countries. Um, yeah, so that is where we are in now.
That's very inspiring, Shamirapa. And you also mentioned about, there are peace pockets. So from building shelters after disasters, now you're building peace pockets in post-conflict countries. I understand you also worked in Rohingya camps in Bangladesh. How was that
Yes.
experience? Going back
Uh,
to Bangladesh, but totally different experience, I guess.
yeah, so on a personal level, I always wanted to work with a Bangladeshi NGO. I never worked
Mhm.
with any Bangladeshi institutions, organizations. I was always working with multinational, international organizations. Didn't have any experience. So my passion was to at least work with one Bangladeshi NGOs. And fortunately enough, got this opportunity with BRAC to work with Rohingya communities.
And BRAC is also one of the world's biggest NGO
One largest NGOs, yeah,
in the world.
employment wise and I think the funding wise as well, if I'm correct.
Yes.
So BRAC is a huge organization. They have international, uh, well, field arenas, and then there's BRAC Bangladesh, which is a national NGO. So working in with for the Rohingya community, it was really eye-opening to see that there are a lot of paradoxes there in Bangladesh when it comes to Rohingya refugees. One is that the government does not recognize them as refugees. They see them as a Rohingya, they see them as a Myanmar citizens, displaced citizens.
Hmm.
Um, but Bangladesh government actually provides a lot of support to the refugees, unlike any other developed countries. There was a huge controversy about an island development,
Bhashanchar.
Bhashanchar, where the government decided to keep some of the Rohingya refugees, particularly from UN and international organization. There was a lot of criticism, and Bangladesh government didn't get much funding, but they used their own fund to develop a settlement area, and the architectural farm was the farm where I started my career in architecture. Uh, Later on, the designer received a lot of awards. So there was a mixed feeling. I still do not agree that people should be moved to an island. The most vulnerable people on earth are the refugees. They should be moved um, without consent to another island. You
Yes.
see, the Rohingya communities, they live in Cox's Bazar in a very in few crowded camps.
Yes.
They don't want to move from there because, just standing on top of a hill or something, they can see across their villages. And there always hope among refugees that one day they would be able to go back to their own countries.
Mm.
So that when you move them from that, the hope is also reduced.
And they're stuck in the middle of nowhere. You can't go to those remote islands.
Yeah, yeah, they're not allowed to get out of, I mean, legally get out of that island. They escape, obviously, they would escape. Human will always try to gain their freedom no matter where you keep them. Alcatraz or you keep them in Bhasanchar, or Devil's Gate.
Exactly.
And freedom is such a thing, unless someone has taken away that freedom, you would realize that how important it is, and you would do anything to get that freedom.
Mm,
So yeah, so that was very eye-opening experience working for the Rohingya communities. Um, it was very sad to see that people in such small shelters living 10, 12 people living in that shelter.
mm,
Women are giving birth in that same small space.
hmm.
Children are studying. It's sad, but you know the inspiring thing about working in this field is that the resilience of the people, even in those situations, how people adapt so quickly and become so resilient, and they every day they fight. So that day is past, another day comes with some hope. So that was a very inspiring bit of the work I do, and
Hmm.
I learn a lot. That I sometimes wonder that how would I react if I were in this position? Probably I would do the same like they're doing, and I think about my children and the generations who are living in Western bubble, that how they would do if there is a war, if there is a mass displacement. You know, people quickly learn to fight back with nature, fight back with the situation. So even if I wonder that would they do good, would they survive, would they not? But I hope they will because it's a human instinct, I guess, and I think that's how it works.
That's so true. This brings me to your sustainability, the final S, the how you keep yourself resilient, and how do you sustain yourself to carry on working from one disaster zone to another.
Uh, I think this is very important to for everyone to realize in this sector that we actually don't work for money. If you want to make money, you can do lots of other things, be it with UN or international NGOs or of your own. If you're working in disaster sector, you actually work for the good, for your passion to do something good. If you don't have that, you shouldn't be in this sector. If you lose your passion, you should move away quickly. I've seen a lot of interns come and go. They cannot adapt to
Mm,
the lifestyle we have. They feel frustrated. They feel vulnerable, and they cannot stay more than 3 months or 6 months. They leave, and they leave for good because they realize that this is not the place,
too
the
tough.
the sector they want to work with. Yeah, I understand. I fully understand it. And this is how it should be. You give a trial, uh, and if you don't, I mean, if you cannot get up from bed next morning with full of energy and passion, so, okay, this today I will do this, then you shouldn't be there. Um, there are a lot of traumas, so we actually need a lot of trauma support for the staff,
Yes,
and because if the traumas are not addressed, people fell into depression and lots of other things happens. I've seen colleagues suffering with alcoholism and depression because of untreated trauma. So it's almost like army. You know, armies are there to fight, and we are there to fight with the situation people in. So it's the experience are not much different than the armies, but our morals are always high. We are there
mm,
to do something good. That's the driver. So yeah, that's the sustainability of it. Um, uh, so now, like after so many years, I cannot work in the front line because of my age and of, of my situation. But I can still work uh, in an area like now. I'm working in fundraising and resource mobilization. Um, so yeah, I'm still there. I'm still working. I'm still in contact with the field workers and the frontline workers. Be inspired by them. Visit the fields. But if I could have the energy of a 22 years old, I would definitely still working in the field. I would definitely would be working in frontline.
Mm.
Yeah, that's how it is for me and many of my colleagues, I guess.
That's so true, Shamirapa. And you said that, if you have the energy of a 22-year-old, I think you still have the energy because you've been in South Sudan for so long. I mean, I'm very impressed because before South Sudan, you were in Cox's Bazar and then Ukraine. So you do have the energy of a 22-year-old. Maybe you just body is telling you to stop. I mean, this is what I feel. I have the same mindset what I had back when I was in my 20s, but sometimes, physically you do get tired.
Yeah, we don't recognize that we have come a long way, isn't it?
Yes. So, do you have any final words or your Mars mantra for the audience?
Oh my, I don't know what would be the Mars mantra. My Mars mantra is that I would ask professionals. Uh, I don't know whether it's a mantra or not. But I would ask professionals to work in humanitarian development sector. You wouldn't be a rich person. You wouldn't have a very good pension, but still you would be doing something very good. And when you after setbacks after a long career, you would recall the good things you have done for the people and the communities you work with and experience working with in different culture, with different languages, different
Yes.
places.
Mm,
And that is so important for a person to have. And you can, I think, recalibrate yourself from stay away from the consumerism as much as possible and be more generous and kind. I think that is needed in this world now. So my Mars mantra should be, I think, that doing good is more rewarding than consuming products. I guess I think that would help a person from inside out. There are a lot of young people suffering uh, with mental health issues,
mm.
and lack of resilience is there, mental resilience is there. So do come to these sectors, build your mental muscle, and work with us. We need you. Thank you.
Thank you, Shamirapa. Really nice to talk to you today.